Hey, what's up? This is Mitchell McBrayer and I'm the owner of Evo Fitness. I'm just making this quick video in order to give you some important safety tips so that you can use your Evo Gym more safely and prevent any injury during use. I would also like to say ahead of time, thank you so much for supporting Evo Gym, and if you like your Evo Gym, you enjoy using it, you think it's high quality, whatever, please leave us a review at amazon.com/RYP. It really helps the business out. You can download your Evo Gym safety guide and instruction manual down below by entering your email. But first, I just want to have this video be concise and deliver the information to you so that it can really be cemented in your mind. Now, with resistance bands, any resistance band that you use, there is a danger of it snapping, and you always need to keep that in mind. That means that you should avoid any movements where you're pulling the bands directly towards your face. So if you are putting the bands in your door and you're doing face pulls, or if you're doing face pulls on the base, whatever it may be, it's very important that you don't pull the bands directly towards your face if you want to stay safe. If you do want to pull the bands towards your face, like I do sometimes, and I'm telling you not to do it, if you do want to do that, just know it's a risk and you could hurt yourself. Like you could potentially damage your eye. So I'm asking you not to do that because that is always a risk with resistance bands, is them snapping. And even though Evo Gym's quality is very high with the bands, we worked very hard to make sure that they'll be safe. That's always a risk. And additionally, in order to make sure that your bands aren't a hazard, like they're not going to snap while you're using them, I recommend checking over your bands before each workout. Check for little abrasions, cuts, discoloration, anything that could indicate that your band is in danger of snapping. Also, on that note, with your Evo bands, you'll notice that there are rubber guards over each of the notches that you insert inside your Evo Gym. So these rubber guards, they basically protect the resistance band from rubbing up against the base when you're pulling on them. So when you insert your resistance bands into your Evo base, what you want to do is make sure that you pull it all the way up through and that you get a bit of that guard into the slot. This is going to keep the your notches and your resistance band protected and keep any abrasion from occurring. A lot of the times with other resistance bands, what you have to do is you have to stand on the resistance bands in order to find the right amount of tension. The problem with that is it's going to be rubbing against the ground. That point where you're standing on is going to experience a lot of abrasion. So this is a big benefit to using these bands with the base. It's going to prevent snapping in way more cases. So yeah, just check over your bands, make sure there's no abrasion, and make sure you pull them through the slot well in order to prevent potential damage to your bands. If there are any tears, or if one of the notches, one of the rubber guards comes off of the notches and it's within the 3-month warranty of your Evo Gym, then you can reach out to us at support@evogym.com and we will send you a replacement for that band, because we really don't want you to have your band snapping or anything like that. Now, if a band does snap and it's within that 3-month warranty, then you can also reach out to us and we'll get that replaced for you. And sorry, actually let me grab this band again. Another important thing with your resistance bands to make sure that everything's safe when you're using it is to make sure that your carabiner is securely attached to the hook or your handles or your bar. Whatever you're attaching your resistance bands to, you want to make sure that this carabiner is firmly attached and that it's closing all the way. You don't want this little piece of fabric to come in between the opening when you close it, because that could cause the fabric to slip out during use. And you don't want a sudden jerking motion to occur while performing an exercise, which is what will happen if suddenly your bar or handles have 20 to 50 pounds less weight on them. So definitely make sure that you are connecting your carabiner well to your bar and handles. That's going to save any potential injuries from occurring with that. It should be fine, but you have to point these things out because it's important to keep these things in mind. I want everyone that has their Evo Gym to be safe. So another point on keeping your resistance bands lasting long and not snapping, all that stuff, is that you want to store them inside a climate controlled conditions. So keep them indoors. Don't store your resistance bands outside where they can get wet, and definitely don't leave them in direct sunlight for extended periods of time. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't use your resistance bands outside. It just means that you don't want to leave them outside over time because that causes latex to degrade. Another thing is when you're cleaning your resistance bands, if you want to clean them, then what you want to do is use just a damp cloth to rub off any debris or anything that could be on them. Using chemicals and soap and all of that can also cause some deterioration to resistance bands. So it's better to just use a damp cloth to rub them off. So another important point that I want to make about using your EVO Gym safely is where you attach your resistance bands. You want to make sure that this point is secure and firm and that it's not going to move, nothing's going to come off. So if you're using something that's in a wall, you want to make sure it's in the stud. If you're using your door, you want to make sure that you put your door anchor near the hinges or the handle, so that way you're not creating too much of a moment arm when pulling on the resistance bands and thus warping the door. I definitely don't want anyone to have any property damage or anything like that while using their EVO bands. A final note is using your hook safely. So your EVO Hook looks like this, and what it does is it allows you to attach your bands to your door anchor, as well as perform some other exercise that I get into in the user guide and some of the instruction videos. So with your hook, in order to make sure that it's safe, you want to make sure that you can pull your resistance bands on it really hard and that they're not going to come out. Because even though the hook is made out of steel and it's very strong, it can of course warp. Anything can warp and, become damaged and defective. And you want to make sure that your hook isn't warped. So what I recommend is that you put it inside your door anchor and, put it in an elevated place in the door. You attach it there and that you test a few heavy bands and you pull really hard on them away from your body. So you're going to have it in the door anchor and then you're going to pull the resistance bands straight down. You're going to pull them straight down when they're in the hook, so that you can make sure it's not going to come out. Now, of course, it's super rare that that's going to happen. I haven't heard of it happening for anyone, but you want to make sure that your hook is in good condition and that you can pull through the slot just to make sure that it's safe. And like with any resistance band, you want to make sure that you're not pulling anything towards your face. Do not pull resistance bands towards your face. It's dangerous. You could injure your eye. You could blind yourself if a resistance band hits you in the face. So what you want to do is just make sure you're not doing any face pulls, anything where you're pulling it directly at yourself. And that'll keep anything like that from happening to you, because that's the worst case scenario with the resistance band, is that you're pulling it towards your face and it snaps. So whether you're using the hook or the EVO base, don't pull your resistance bands towards your face. That's just a really important point of safety when using resistance bands. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for supporting EVO Gym, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.